Morning, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Armed Forces Steering Group. It's quite a while since we met, hence that we have no previous minutes to refer to. So that's the first thing I want to say this morning. We'll go straight into the agenda. Mark, do we have any apologies?
No apologies today, Chair.
Okay, thank you for that. And the second item, are there any declarations of interest? No.
Chair, the only thing I would mention, obviously, within my day job as the Defence Relations Manager within the Ministry of Defence.
Okay, we'll mark that as a personal, I would have thought so.
Yes, thank you, Chair.
And then, Chris, I'm going to call you in for agenda item number 3, which is the update on service pupil promise.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think where Joe, who's presenting the first item, isn't in the waiting room. Is that right, Mark? So I'm thinking maybe we'll push that on and try and get hold of them in the meantime. So
Okay,
if it's okay with you, can we move on to the next item, Jamie?
We'll move through the agenda, and then when and if Joanna joins us, we can refer back to that agenda item. So agenda item number 4 is an update from yourself, Jamie. So if I bring you in to give that update, including the Veterans Advice Service.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just going to share my screen. Can everyone see that? Yeah. I'm sure you all know me by now, but I'm Jamie Island. I'm the Armed Forces Liaison Officer covering COMTAF, so RCT and Merthyr. So today's update is going to be on the Veteran Advice Service and also my role as an AFLO, the key areas we've been currently working on, and we are going to be working on to the rest of the year. Can you see the next slide? Does the next slide come up here? Great. So the first thing I'm pleased to announce is myself, Chris, and Councillor Webber got together about 2 months ago, and we have now launched the Veteran Advice Line. You see the contact telephone number there. We've got press release due to go out this week on this, and there's a telephone number 01443 425 020. This new line will go through, veteran queries will go through the main contact centre, and that will provide, bear with me, I can't breathe a second. Can I take a second to take a breath?
Are you okay, Jamie?
No, I'm waiting for a call back from a doctor. Just bear with me a second. I'm just going to stop sharing if that's right. Just give me 2 minutes.
Take your time. Jamie's not been very well, Councillor.
Right, we let Jamie take a few minutes, and if we can come back to Jamie. If Rhiannon, are you happy to go on to agenda item number 5 and give an update on the War Memorials digitalisation project?
Yeah, absolutely, Councillor. No problem at all. I'm not sure why my camera's not working, but I will share my screen now and give you all an update. 1 second. Okay. There we go. Can everybody see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, fab. So I'm just going to give a quick War Memorial update. I'm going to focus on the digitisation project, but then I am going to just talk a little bit about other key elements that we've focused on as well in the recent months. So I'm going to, like I said, talk about the digitisation project mostly, but then I am going to mention Porth, Treorchy, Tonypandy, Harry Dobson, and also the War Memorial policy that we've created. So at the moment, where we are with the digitisation project, as everyone knows, this is an ongoing project. It's a long-term project, and we're working really hard to get all of the war memorials. So initially, we thought it was 117 war memorials within our county borough, but actually, as I'll mention in a second, we're finding more and more as we go on. We've got 9 live on the website at the moment. We've also got the Treorchy Roll of Honour, which has got over 500 names. It's been updated on my side, but we're just waiting for the memorial to be unveiled on the 12th of July for me to click a button, and then that will be visible for everybody else as well. So at the moment, there's 1,721 names which are live on the website. 3 are currently with translation. I actually got one back last night, so I'll be able to get the Māori one up within this week as well. 2 I'm currently checking. One of those is Ynysang Harrod Park. As you can imagine, that is taking quite a lot of time, especially not just due to the quantity of people who were listed on there, but also because this was actually the first memorial that we did. So there was some people struggling a little bit with their research and not necessarily getting the correct names, the correct people who were listed there. So that's taken a little bit longer than I was hoping, but we're working through it. And 8 which have been fully researched, and I just need to check them. I've also, on top of what we're doing at the moment for the digitisation project, I've secured some additional funding, so £3,000 I've secured from the Museum Federation. And this is to digitise our military collection. So we are currently photographing, well, we've got an external person coming in and currently photographing our military objects, and also 3D imaging the ones which are appropriate. So for example, gas masks, helmets, these type of things are getting 3D scanned. And these images, I'm hoping then we can link up with the people who are listed on the memorial. So we can link up their death pennies, the medals and everything with the people who are listed. Something that was really interesting, I just want to touch upon the image that I've actually got on this slide at the moment. This is one of the objects that we have discovered in our military collection. So originally it was donated in 1996, and it was just listed as fabric with writing military with a question mark. So I've got this out to be photographed, and I've been able to decipher what it actually says on there. It was written by driver George Davis, who was on New Year's Day 1915, and it says, "'Tis a piece of khaki from a jacket for winter, handed to me all tailored and fine. 'Tis not a gilt edge on a costly card, but it conveys to you my kindest regards." George Davis was actually, well, I found out that he was actually killed in May 1915, and we've got his records, and we're having a look to see if he's listed on our memorial. So this just shows how important it is to do these next stages, the linking up the personal side of things, because it's helping people remember that these are real people, which is the whole point of this project. So on top of whilst doing this additional funding and looking at these objects in our collection, so far we've actually found 9 more Rolls of Honour within the Cynon Valley Museum collection, and 5 new Roll of Honour found in the Heritage Park collection. So these are ones that nobody knew about, and again, they were collected in the 90s, and they're just listed as military objects with no other description. And as we've got over 30,000 objects in our collection, they haven't been looked at, so they were never actually listed as Rolls of Honour. So there's always more to be done, but I'm really glad that we found it at this stage, so we can add them to our list of memorials that we need to digitise. So that's where we are with the digitisation project at the moment. There's a lot going on in the background, even if they're not on the website yet. There's a lot to do before it gets to that point, and things are ticking over, and I've got a wonderful group of volunteers who are constantly working on it. So as I mentioned, I just wanted to touch upon the other things that we've been doing at the moment. So this is what Porth War Memorial looks like at the moment. When it got relocated when there was an extension of the bypass, and over time, the pillar, which is closest to the road, ended up getting quite a significant lean on it. And it was determined that for health and safety reasons, we needed to remove it and have a look at what was causing the lean. We've had consultations, we've spoken to people who were involved in the relocation at the beginning. We've also spoke to structural engineers and our highways department, and they advised that the best thing to do was not to reinstate the pillar. We've taken their advice from a health and safety point of view, and after consultation, we found out that 3 pillars were only originally put there for aesthetic reasons rather than any significant reasons. So we've been able to relocate the plaques that were on the leaning pillar to the pillar which is on the left-hand side, which you can see now, because that didn't have any plaques on there originally. I've also, as you can see, created an information board which explains about the different phases of memorialisation in Porthcawl, because it's pretty interesting. That's got one of our QR codes on, which will then link up to the digitisation project. So this is a really nice example of how the physical memorial links up with the digital memorial as well. Treorchy, I'm not sure if anybody's actually seen this image. I popped there yesterday to have a look at what the memorial looks like, which is going to be unveiled on the 12th of July. And honestly, it looks absolutely fantastic. They've done an amazing job. They really have. And it's so lovely to be able to have that exact replica of an original plaque on this memorial. The reason that the middle sort of like grey plaque is a replica rather than the original is because the original was made of marble. So it just wouldn't have been appropriate to have on externally because it would have weathered too quickly. So the original memorial is going to be on display in Treorchy Library, along with the Roll of Honour that I mentioned earlier that we've created. So this is amazing, and as I'm sure everyone's aware, this is going to be officially unveiled on the 12th of July. And like I said, it just looks absolutely stunning. I'm really, really happy with it. Tonypandy then I was originally contacted in 2023 about this memorial, which is out the back of Living Way Church. We've been trying to secure funding to try and relocate it. I've been in conversations with the War Memorials Trust, because obviously we want to do everything as gold standard at what we're doing. This memorial has had vandalism. There was at one point I was contacted because there was human waste on there. This is just it needed to be relocated, and we were just having quite a tricky time being able to, one, secure the funding, but also to get the War Memorials Trust on board with us as well. We've done several consultations. We've done surveys where it was determined that actually lots of residents didn't even know about this memorial. And there was an overwhelming agreement in the area through these surveys that residents wanted this relocated. So this is now going to happen within this financial year, which is absolutely fantastic. And it's being relocated to where the other one on Dunraven Street is. And we've also agreed that there's going to be some planters there as well, so we can get veterans groups involved, and it can be a community space as well as a memorial. And as with Treorchy, I'm going to create an accompanying Roll of Honour for this. The plan is to do consultations again, like we did with Treorchy, and have residents come and talk to us, tell us about their family members, and then I will research from there. Hopefully we can get some schools involved in this as well, because the more the community is involved with a war memorial, the more they take ownership, the more these memorials are looked after then in the future. This is something that is slightly different, this memorial. This one came about from when I went to see the excavation of the remains of a Tonypandy miner who went to Spain to fight in the International Brigades. His name was Harry Dobson. I went out to see this excavation, and when we came back, it was decided that there should be something there to remember him. And what we wanted to do was create a memorial, which there was a replica in in our area and also in Spain to show the physical connection between these two sites. It's great having a memorial, but actually getting to the point of having a memorial is almost more important, because you tell the story, you educate people about why this memorial is important. I went to Porth Community School, did a couple of sessions with a group there, and they were so amazing. They were absolutely fantastic, and they created this memorial to Harry. The base of it obviously represents his mining background, and then we've got him and the dragon, and it's just lovely. And the fact that they've created that is really, really special. That will be unveiled in July this year on the Ebro, and then also in May next year in Solidarity Park in Barcelona. And we're still finding an appropriate location for this plaque to go then in the Rhondda, but we'll figure out where it's going to go and we'll keep you updated. It's just a really, really exciting thing for these students to say that they've done. And again, the whole idea of taking ownership and learning your own heritage in a slightly different way is great. They're also very keen to go out on a school trip to Solidarity Park next year to see the inauguration of this plaque in Barcelona, which is lovely. And then just coming back down to the last part that I want to touch upon is the War Memorial Policy. So even though we've been implementing different strategies for the past few years in regards to war memorials, there wasn't a actual council war memorial policy in place. So we've worked to create this to safeguard memorials for future generation. This will be a county-wide policy, and the aim is to prevent damage, to protect our war memorials, and also to make residents aware of what we can actually do. We can't do absolutely everything to a war memorial because actually they're not ours. So there's lots of things that we have to do in order to protect a memorial. And I think as well as protecting the memorial from weathering and cleaning, we actually have to make residents aware of the limitations of what we can do, but what they can do instead to protect it. So that's where we are at the moment. Yeah, if anybody's got any questions, please feel free to ask away.
I want to come in before I open it to questions, Rhiannon, first of all, to thank you for the substantial amount of work that's been carried out. I know we saw last week that you were looking for information in relation to 3 graves that have been identified as well.
Yes, yeah.
So I saw that. I think it's useful to impart on members the fact that we chose the 12th of July for the Treorchy Memorial is in line with the Mehmet Woods conflict. And I think that's important to people of Treorchy that we've recognised that, and we are holding it on that day for that reason. Well done on pulling down that £3,000. We know that although we have a budget, we're always looking where we can pull more money down to make improvements to what we've already got. I want to touch on the Porth Memorial. We did involve the local members. We did consult with them. We did extensive work. Well, you yourself did extensive work in identifying the fact that those pillars were, as you rightly said, they were just there was no historical significance there, so it wasn't a problem for the removal as we thought it may have been. The Tonypandy Memorial, yeah, I know we've looked, and some of the prices we had were a bit extortionate, but I think we've managed to address that now. And let's not overlook the fact that we've already got a plaque for Harry Dobson. It is in the Rhondda Heritage Park. We can give him more significance, and we look at that going down the line, but he is recognised by that plaque in the War Memorial in Rhondda Heritage Park. The War Memorial Policy, I want to touch on aspects of that, because what I said to Chris earlier today, you rightly said, we can't do everything and we cannot be responsible for everything. So I think included in that policy should be the fact that when frequently we get asked, oh, there's a stone near a plaque there, and we've had that of recent with the Pontypridd Boys Grammar School memorials, and it comes at a cost taking them on. So as we go forward, when they arise, included in the policy, I'd like to see that we look at everyone individually
Yes.
as it comes up, because, you know, obviously there is a cost included. So I can see some raised hands. First of all, Craig, I'll bring you in.
No, it's just a request, Rhiannon. Please do keep me involved with on the planning of the Tonopandi War Memorial.
course.
You know, and both the chairman of the local Royal British Legion have run already, you know, VE celebrations and run the remembrance service in November in Tonopandi. So from a veterans perspective, you know, I'm involved with all the mid-Rhondda groups. And just you know, I'm not the local member obviously, but I am a member for Pennygraig, and obviously would like to explore Pennygraig Park, which is it is actually a war memorial park. So it'd be good to enhance that. But please do keep me involved with Tonopandi, because, as I said, in 2018 we did actually recognise the old cenotaph, or the old memorial, opposite the police station there, for 100 years of commemoration of World War One. So we have been over 20 years trying to do a lot with Tonopandi Memorials, and it's really great. And I appreciate both Councillor Webber's, you know, direction on this from a local authority perspective, and your drive to having the post as a War Memorials officer to fulfil, you know, these ambitions of what councils have been trying to do for a long, long time, to get these memorials recognised, QR codes on there. And what would be good is to get a plaque on there with all the fallen. So please do put me on your planning committee for this,
Yeah, of course, Councillor.
which I hope will end in a big celebration, because we do have some standards that need to be laid up, and we're already in discussions to do that, and bring in the Royal Welsh, which is the antecedent regiments that actually fought in the Metz Wood. So very key and very passionate for me. Thank you.
Of course, yeah, no problem. I'll make sure that you're included in everything. And just touching on Pennygraig War Memorial as well. That is one of the two memorials that we're able to get 3D scanned through this funding. So as soon as that's been completed, I will send it over to you for you to have a good look at that as well.
Great.
Okay,
Thank you.
Steve, Councillor Bradrick.
Thank you, Chair. My ignorance now, I've been reading on Modga because I haven't had the papers for this, because I can hardly see now through the one eye. I didn't see Aberdare Cenotaph on the list, or whatever. My concern is, and Phil Atkins can back me up on this, we got a barber shop right by the Cenotaph, and they're constantly sitting on our Cenotaph in Aberdare on the steps. I've been in there loads of times. I've had environmental health to them to stop feeding the pigeons there, and they're still doing it. Is there anything we can do as an authority to stop these Turkish barbers sitting on the Cenotaph of the Pride in Aberdare? Because it's such a beautiful monument, it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just a thought, Chair.
Sorry, can I come in there as well? Just 1 second, Councillor. I just within the War Memorial policy, we can definitely include about ensuring that it's our policy to make sure that they're not benches. There are benches close by for people to sit on, and not to climb on memorials. That's definitely something that I can include in the War Memorial policy, and we can send out if there's any issues, like you're saying, with particular residents who are climbing or sitting on any memorials. We can make sure that you provide them with that War Memorial policy, and they can see in there that it's against the council-wide policy. Then I can certainly add that for you.
Steve, it may be useful for businesses in Aberdare. Just perhaps we can do, Rhiannon, like a little leaflet drop in terms of it would be useful information rather than a direction, saying that it is a unique memorial in Aberdare. It's a stunning memorial, and we would hope that everybody treats it with the due respect it deserves. That's giving a broader spectrum rather than saying, well, don't do it, but they should get the message if we do something.
Yeah, I can absolutely create one of them. That's no problem.
Yeah. And the other thing, a couple of weeks ago on a Sunday, I was appalled. I could see all these I call them push bike cycles then. We're leaned up against the back of the Cenotaph, And when I went past, it was about 11 o'clock in the morning. There was about a dozen cyclists there. They're from a club they were. I couldn't see with the club, and I asked them, could they remove the bikes from the cenotaph? Uh, I'm passionate about the cenotaph because my best mate Philip Sweet got killed in the Falklands, and his headstone is on it. And they were sitting right by his headstone, eating and drinking, and they virtually told me where to go. I sent an email to the Welsh Cycling Association in Newport to say, could they ask these clubs not to use the cenotaph as they stop off and drinking, whatever. Still haven't had a reply off the Welsh Cycling. But they left all the rubbish on the cenotaph as well. They left the Greggs packets, the cups of coffee. So I would come home because I only live about 5 minutes up from it. I went come home. I went down and cleaned it because I felt it was absolutely appalling. Now these were men of 40, 50, 60 years of age who were in a cycling club from Cardiff and Newport. I thought it was absolutely appalling.
Let us have a look, Steve, and see if we can, if there's something. I'm loath to put any signage too near the memorial because it would take away from what it is. But if there's something, we can do directly away from it, we look at it and we'll come back to you. We'll obviously consult with yourself and Victoria before any decisions are made or taken, okay? Kai, do you want to come in?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. It's just a really quick one on the update with the digital service. I think that's absolutely fantastic. And I think whatever we can do to teach younger people about conflicts and about why these memorials exist, certainly with the rise in technology, I think those digital 3D scans, I think in the long term, they're going to be absolutely fantastic. So I'm really pleased to hear an update on that. I just wanted to give my thanks.
Oh, thank you very much. Good. I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad that you're happy with how everything's going, and I completely agree with you. It's really important to educate young people because they're the ones who essentially are going to look after our memorials in the future.
And if we've got time, I'm going to ask Rhiannon to impart on you the little story about the women's peace what is it called?
The Welsh Women's Peace Petition.
And what happened, and you couldn't make it up what happened on the Heritage Park. Yeah, I think that will go down in history as giving me goosebumps to say the very least what happened that morning. And if we got time, we'll go back to it. Is Jamie able? Steve, you got your hand up again?
I forgot to say, Chair, I know something that's nothing to do with memorials, but my grandfather was an ambulance man during the war, and he was awarded from St John's Ambulance a certificate from the uncrowned king and his brother, who became the King George VI. If you want to have a look at that, it's amazing. It's from the Order of St John's at Jerusalem the Order of St. John's of the Jerusalem, and apparently St. John's Ambulance was telling me that that's the only one they've ever seen because he saved all these lives in the Tower Pit during the war. So
Rhiannon will snap your hand off for that, Steve.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm coming down to licensing on Tuesday marking it. I'll bring it down. And I'll leave it so you can see it, Maureen, if you want to have a look at it.
I would love to see it. Thank you so much.
It's brilliant, it is, And it's all by the Royal Dukes who have signed this thing for my grandfather. Yep.
Dawn, do you want to come in?
Just reiterating about the digitalization, amazing. Sorry for my naivety. So the future means that the memorial in Tonnereval, there will be a roll of honour there.
Not in Tonnereval. We haven't got that at the moment, but I wouldn't be surprised if there is one in a church. But I can have a little look to see if there is a roll of honour in Tonnereval in a church anywhere at the moment. I think
what I was thinking is did I hear right when you said about needing funds? Because what I'm thinking is we've got some funding available, and if there was any work to be done in on the memorial or work on the revitalisation of the Roll of Honour, then we have money that we could ring fence.
Okay, I mean, absolutely. There's always an option for a creation of a Roll of Honour. I think the issue is, to put it bluntly, the reason why there aren't names listed on a lot of the memorials was because there were just simply too many names to fit on a piece of stone. Too many people died from the local area to have that on a memorial, which is why a Roll of Honour book has become the go-to instead, because we can do a lot more research. We can ensure that everybody is included within the book then, and then that could be kept in a church or a library or a community centre, encased in a cabinet, a lockable cabinet where people can access as and when they want. But I'm more than happy to have a chat with you, councillor, and we can figure out how we can create something to ensure that all the names are remembered rather than just having a general memorial. But I'll set a meeting up and we can have a proper chat about how we can look about doing that, if you like, councillor.
If you could include it in that, would we need to consult with Tonreffer Community Council on that, do you think?
Yeah, I was gonna, when I leave this meeting, that's what I was gonna pop over as well, because I think it's a fantastic idea.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we may need to involve the Tonreffer Community Council on that one going forward. I can see now Jo is in, Chris, and Jamie. Do we want to go to Jo or Jamie?
We go to Jo next, and I'll if Jamie isn't in later, I'll pick up a few points. I haven't got his presentation, but I can run through a couple of minutes of probably what he was going to say.
Okay, then welcome, Jo, and if you want to give us your presentation. Morning, both.
Sorry, we're struggling to make them. Good morning. I'm so sorry. Thank you so much for inviting us to join this today. Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Chair. WLGA wouldn't let me join Zoom this morning, so we were having a bit of a nightmare. We're down in Pembs, so we're together, which is a rarity. Thank you so much for attaching the notes, Chris, on why we've joined this meeting, and it's basically to discuss the potential for RCT to host a Service Pupil Promise event in collaboration with SSE Cymru. And Yaz and I were discussing this morning, basically riding off the back of such a positive event that you hosted for Month of the Military Child that Rhiannon organised. So fantastically, we thought, right, strike while the iron's hot and see if RCT would be prepared to host the next event. You'd be number 4 out of all the local authorities. We piloted this event in Pembrokeshire because they have such a high number of service children. And then we kind of moved it to Bridgend and then Neath Port Talbot. And now we're seeing whether you guys would like to be the 4th one to host such an event. Looking at our data, we recognise that there are 29 schools within RCT that have service children that we know of. So there's about 92 service children that we kind of know of, thanks to people providing data. There are 5 schools currently that have Armed Forces Friendly School statuses with us. And sort of echoing what Councillor Preedy said, invoking that kind of sense of pride and the connection to the armed forces community within RCT. This is something we hope that you'd be on board with doing with us. If I just share my screen with you all and you can kind of get a feel for what it's about. Let's see if I can open this. There we go. There we are. Can you guys see that? So essentially, this is something that we launched and we used Pembrokeshire, as I said, as a pilot. And the basis behind it was that it's something for service children and young people to be part of, to kind of reinforce the local authorities' commitment to the Armed Forces Covenant with regard to service children, armed forces connected children and young people. And this was mainly to do with service pupil voice, and it was a great way for local authorities to actually take the time to listen and make a commitment and a promise to the children living in their area. This is an example of the Pembrokeshire Service Pupil Promise, and the event would be, so you choose a venue to host the event, and then we would support contacting schools and getting schools to come along, and we'd run pupil voice workshops to gather really good information. You'll see the examples here. And they work in small groups, and we do lots of pupil voice workshops to build on the promise. If I scroll down, here's another good example of the Neath Talbot one. So, and depending on what works for you, I mean, you've already got a fantastic venue, thanks to the heritage site. And for example, so Bridgend ran one in a local community hall, which was really helpful. We found that it's much better if you take them outside of school, because it makes it a bit more special, and you get more from them because they're less distracted by what's going in and on around school and school bells and things. And lots of the things are based on their experiences, their lived experiences, and what they want to share. And it's bringing those service children together, you know, like you did so successfully for the Months of Military Child event, and then just giving them the opportunity to have further conversation around that and share with, you know, grown-ups, who policymakers and the wider community about their lived experiences, and to listen and create this promise from the local authority to them. And like this example here, Neath Talbot all did handprints, and then they made like a tree display. And then whenever there are events that are for the service children, they, you know, would bring this promise out to reflect on the good work that's already embedded within across the local authority. Let me see if I can find you. Hang on, I've lost you there. There we go. Stop sharing my screen. And so we've kind of tailored it to happen within the school day. There would be up to 4 or 5 sort of pupil voice sessions. We have a small amount of budget that we're offering local authorities to go towards hosting this. So it would be up to about £2,500. The previous ones that we've done have kind of hit that target quite well. But depending on how you want to spend that money, it could be that you find a venue for free, great. But most of our local authorities, I would say, and Rhiannon would probably echo this, you know, a lot of that goes on staff time to release staff to accompany children, transport potentially. You know, some of the local authorities have bought each of the participants a present. So Bridgend, a little booklet, like a notebook.
Show it to you because I'm using it now. I use it now.
Yeah. My glamorous assistant here will show you what they produced. And then, so Pembrokeshire and Neath Talbot have already designed a kind of Zap stand with promise printed on it. And
delivered posters to their schools as well. So each school in Pembrokeshire in particular have a copy of the Service Pupil Promise. So it just really reminds schools what commitments and what pledges they've made to their service children. And it really allows you as a local authority then to shape your practice, because your children have told you what they want to see happening. So you can embed that. So, you know, if you want to look at funding in the future for how you want to support your service children, you've got that voice element covered without you second guessing what these children would like to see in terms of support. And I think that is a huge element for helping push forward really provision for service children in RCT. I think we're at a really good starting point already, aren't we? I think this would just really strengthen what you guys are already doing and what you've already committed to with service children.
Striking while the iron's hot, so to speak. And I think that this is a really nice way to recognise that sort of wider connective piece, because, you know, for us, the whole point was we hear a lot about veterans, we hear a lot about currently serving, but actually to recognise the children within the local authority is really important too. And I think you guys are already doing such a good job of that by events like that one that you did. So I think it would just be really, really nice to then kind of bolster it and be able to say publicly, look, we've signed the covenant, we're doing this as well for the children in our area. So yeah, that's what it's all about. Thank you for your time. Do we have any questions at all, please?
Before I open it to questions, I've got some comments. Rhiannon, I'm going to ask you to come in. We recently held not a dissimilar event to this in the Rhondda Heritage Park, where service children were there and they actually wrote and performed a song that they'd written themselves. It was an amazing day. I was very privileged to be there and take part in the days. So I know that in the report this morning there are recommendations, and after I take questions from other members, I'm going to ask them to support the recommendation. It would be an absolute privilege. Budget is good, but I'm sure, and Chris, I'm looking at you that hold the purse strings, I'm sure we could stretch if we need to, in terms of supporting financially. It would be remiss of us not to do that, given that we should be, Jamie and myself have always spoke about getting into schools more and getting more involved. We've done some poppy planting with schools. But yeah, the day that we had, and Rhiannon, I don't know if you want to touch on it, it was an extremely successful day.
Yeah, it was a lovely day, and that was we were really fortunate. We were awarded funding from SSE Cymru in order to put this on, and it was a lovely day. So we had 8 schools came along, primary schools and secondary schools, and they came to the Heritage Park, and the theme of the day was to ensure that their voices were heard in different ways. So as we were at the Heritage Park, it made sense for them to go on an underground tour to understand their heritage and where they're from. But then we ran a couple of different workshops as well. So one workshop was with Otto from Never Such Innocence, and he is absolutely incredible. He sat with the children, just had a conversation with them, asked them about who they are and what words are significant to them, and working together, they made to create the most beautiful song. It was absolutely lovely, and we've got that now. We've got the song available to us for whenever we want to play it, so that's fantastic, and it was lovely. And then we also did a workshop. They created banners, individual ones for themselves, and then a school banner that they can take back with them. And this was to highlight how banners have been used in the past, especially in our community, for giving marginalised communities voices to be heard. And these kids needed their voices heard, and what a lovely way to do it. And it was lovely. We also had the regional engagement team from the Army came along. We had music from the Royal Welsh band were there. It was just a really lovely day, and we had really positive feedback from everybody who attended. And we'll certainly be looking at doing more of these type of events in the future. I'm already trying to figure out what our next one will be. So you'll certainly be hearing a lot more from us.
I'm just trying to find it, actually, Rhiannon. Thank you for that. Just trying to find it on our Month of the Military Child page so you guys can see the photos, because it was an incredible day, and we were so lucky to be part of it. And for you guys, that was a really wonderful use of funding in our mind, because it really strengthens sort of the community spirit towards the armed forces, fostering really positive engagement. So yeah, very, very grateful. And yeah, please do hop on our website. We've put the link to the song on there as well. And just a really, really lovely day. So like I said, off the back of that, if we can then continue our good work across RCT with the help and support of, Rhiannon, yourself and Chris and Jamie and Hayley, that would be wonderful. So yeah.
I'm going to call other members. Craig, Councillor Middle, I can see you've got your hand up.
Thanks, Maureen. Hi both, how are you doing?
Hi, thank you.
with a different hat on. But I think my point, I think you summed up there, Joe, is how this committee and you know, from a Armed Forces Covenant commitment and being gold on the employer recognition scheme is how we can you know, support this. But also, you know, what would be good, Chris, is to have statistics into, you know, how many schools we've got in Rhondda and Taff, how many are signed up to the Armed Forces friendly schools, and therefore that will hopefully focus us more on it in those areas that currently doesn't have that historical knowledge or engagement. So, you know, I can only talk for Mid Rhondda. You know, I'm the poppy coordinator, and annually we get every single primary school and our local comprehensive school at the Cenotaph, and they are selling poppies, and they have a pack for educational purposes. You know, so if we can strategically roll that out to make sure that happens throughout Rhondda and Taff, then I think it's a good win. But yeah, we need those statistics and that data. Now, I don't know whether, Maureen, it goes to educational scrutiny or whether it sits with us here, but I think there's something that should go formally around the LEA to be able to hit those targets on that scale. But I'm more than happy to recommend, well, move the recommendations 2.1 and 2.2. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move them when we've finished with. Kai, do you want to come in?
Yeah, just really quickly, Craig touched on what I was going to say actually about statistics and what school engagement is. I sit as a governor on 2 schools, and I think it'd be really good to dig deeper into that. And also, one of the other points that I think was raised as well is making service children feel connected, which I think is really important. You know, with not knowing as an authority what the statistics are, I think it's really important to understand actually how many service children do we have in the wider area, because it may not just be one event we need. We may need quite a few events if there's a significant number. So no, I'm absolutely more than happy to support this, and I think it's a really, really good initiative.
Yes, I don't know if you want to come in here about what data we do hold, or if
it links with
you too, if that's okay, Chris, because we've got obviously from an SSC Cymru point of view, we obviously do a annual data collection. It is tricky. We rely on a gesture of goodwill, and schools are busy and they find it really tricky. And if they don't know, sometimes they're not asking the question. So we do give them all the tools and resources to support with that. Looking this morning, I think I could see there was like a 55% response rate across RCT. So not perfect, but better than other authorities, in all honesty. It is a struggle, but like I said, we have got 92 service children in 29 of our schools. In terms of the status, we've got 5 bronze, 4 bronze and then 1 silver, and I've also got a couple working towards gold. What I would say is the schools I'm actually working with probably more proactively at this point in time is a school with 1 or 2 children. I've got at least 3 of those who are kind of on their journey to becoming an Armed Forces friendly school. But I think in terms of data collection, you probably know Welsh Government extended the definition of service children, which we will be putting out to our schools in this next academic year now. So that will only identify more children, I'd imagine, of veterans community. It's gone up to 6 years now. So we are hopeful, you know, with the support of the local authority, that we will be able to get better numbers in terms of identifying those service children.
Yeah, internally, Chair, it's Dan Williams works with Yaz, I think, and Joe, which reminded me we need to include Dan in the conversations about this project as well. Which is for me to do with Yaz.
Yeah. It was actually really helpful to have Hayley in the room as youth engagement as well, because, you know, more awareness is always great for us. And I think with the change in the definition, you know, widening that definition has made such a difference. And I think our next round of data will reflect that, hopefully. But yeah, the more sort of it filters down, that waterfall effect from the top down is always really, really helpful. So any time you can bang the drum for us, we're really, really grateful. Yeah, we're really grateful.
Right, I can see other members' hands raised. Dawn, do you want to come in?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that a great idea in it. It's just so important for the children to realise just how special and unique and valued they are. To me, you know, having served and been the welfare officer and worked with these children, they're just unique and they are the unsung heroes. And I just think it's fantastic work that you're already doing, and long may it continue.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Councillor.
Thank you for those comments. Craig, do you want to come back in? I'm painfully mindful of
Just a quick one. Does that include grandparents, so grandchildren
Oh.
of serving personnel?
See, this is the tricky, sticky bit. So we've always said, I mean, you know, I'm prepared to fall on the sword here, Yaz.
You go wild.
Because our argument with Welsh Government has been for the last 14 years to change this definition, because it was obviously only the 2 years post-service, which meant my own children were out of the gang at that point because my husband left 2 years ago. And it was really frustrating because they wanted to bring it in line with England, obviously. But we've always said, anyone's in the gang in our mind. If you've got any armed forces connection whatsoever, you're in the gang, because it's not a one size fits all. And I think that even if you've got an uncle, an aunt, a sister who's serving, you have an understanding of what that's like. You know, you watch the news and see it through different eyes. So I think it's very much a, you know, any connection for us. But in terms of funding, unfortunately, Welsh Government are sticklers for that definition.
I would probably challenge that.
We have, believe me.
I'm referring to serving personnel, you know, and I'll just use myself as an example. You know, I'm still serving, and I've got grandchildren in school. Now, I think what I'm getting at is actually, you know, the pastoral care of that child. You know, so and it might be that is the grandparents that actually. Do you know what I'm saying? So, that's the point I'm trying to make.
And that's why we've always said it's they're in the gang. Like your grandchildren are very much, you know, we're very mindful of that. And if there are wellbeing clubs at all in any of these schools, we actively encourage them to, you know, any pupil on roll that has an armed forces connection, you know, include them in any activities that are funded by us. On the down low.
Yeah, a lot of our schools sort of do, like, you know, the ones we've been working with for a very, very long time, they have kind of embedded that into their practice. So, like, you know, in Haverfordwest here, in one of our schools, even though we do have that large, you know, cohort of service children, even they've included children that they feel connected to the armed forces. They've got a member of their family who isn't necessarily a parent who's serving, and they're really involved, and that's giving them a sense of community and somebody who understands their world, even though it's not just a parent. So we do actively encourage that across the board. And, you know, if you are speaking to any schools, please point them our direction, because we'd love to speak to them.
And I would say, you know, we've even got some areas where, you know, schools of sanctuary where there are children from Ukraine, and we've said, like, our children have an understanding of what that life is like. So please do, you know, include them and buddy up, because it's, you know, they see it very differently as well. So we're all about inclusivity, 100%.
Right, there are recommendations in the report. So we are looking that we note your presentation, and thank you very much for the presentation. And we consider supporting the project and its potential rollout. I'm going to wholeheartedly recommend that we do support the project and we do look at the rollout, but I would need someone to formally move and second those recommendations. Craig, I think you did that.
I'm happy to second that, but I'm also happy to put a recommendation that you know, we proactively. Did you say you wanted a host for month of the military?
So for the actual event, we need a host venue. And then I think we tentatively, when we spoke with Chris in May, we put a tentative date in the diary for the 14th of October, you know, just to kind of have that as in mind if it was to...
So can I just change the word in 2.2 then, is to support the project and its potential rollout within Rhondda and Taff, not consider it?
Yeah, to support it. Yeah, take the word consider out, support it.
If you could do that, thank you, Councillor Webber.
Chris, is there anything you want to add or say?
No, I think just thank Yaz and Joe for coming along, and we can move forward now and have another meeting. And I want Rhiannon involved, if that's okay, Rhi, because you did the event so well before.
We want to be involved with Rhi too.
Yeah, Rhi wants to be involved. So,
no problem.
And we'll keep you all updated on progress as we progress.
Yeah, can I have a formal show of hands just to move those recommendations? That's unanimous. So thank you both and look forward to
So much.
with you
I look forward
further.
to working with you all in the future. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for your time. Take care all.
Thanks both.
Bye.
Bye.
Chris, with regard to Rhiannon's report, the War Memorial policy, I don't
Yeah.
want to move those recommendations as in the report because I think there is probably more adding to on the policy
Yeah.
that we need to do.
We'll take it away. Myself and Rhiannon will take it away and
Yeah.
take on board the points
Yeah.
today and amend and then recirculate.
Yeah. So are members happy with that we revisit that policy and look at the additions?
Can I just ask, Chair, once we've done that and we've kind of agreed it, does it need to go anywhere else, like cabinet or a decision notice, or do we just agree at this committee?
I'll check that with Christian. I think we'd be fine to agree it at this committee, but I will check that with Christian, okay?
Okay, brilliant, thank you.
Is Jamie able to rejoin us? And if he isn't, is there anything you want to pick up on?
I can do, if Jamie's not there, I don't think he is. I haven't got his presentation, but I've just quickly scribbled a few things down. I can do 2 minutes, maybe, just a quick update. What I think he was going to say, if that's all right, Chair.
Yeah.
Okay, I think his first slide was on the new Veterans Advice line. This has come about because we have Jamie's had a lot of calls coming in and into himself, and he's often in meetings or whatever. So we've got a formal process now, which is a new telephone line through the contact centre for any veteran, any family member of the veteran, or you or I could put a reference in. It comes through to one place then. It's the same as the email referral. It all comes to one place on a system called GOS, which some of you may know. And it also helps us monitor the calls coming in, the type of calls, the type of people. And it's a lot more formal way of monitoring it as well. And it'll help Jamie manage the process better. So I'm sure he would have said more on that. But that's basically live as of today, I think. I'll get him to send the number around and it'll be promoted through social media, etc. Just wanted to mention Armed Forces Day, which was week last Saturday, which was a great day, I think, really successful. We've had great feedback. Social media feedback's been superb. Councillor Webber's had feedback herself. I've done a survey as well, which we've sent out on social media. Not a massive response yet, but everyone on there saying how good it was. They would recommend it. They would come again. So we're obviously doing something right there on a really tight budget, really, considering how we started as a picnic in the park with, really low budget. And we've expanded it a little bit. But, Councillor Middle said earlier about the All Wales event, considering, the amount of resources they have, considering what we're doing in RCT, I think is unbelievable, really. Treorchy, 12th of July, new War Memorial unveiling. Rhiannon has mentioned that. Obviously, you're invited to that. It's 11 a.m. Short service. There is a road closure. The band there, the choir. So that should be a big event. I think Councillor Webber's going to introduce that, unveil the memorial. It's been hosted by Gareth Pennell. Just to mention, a new Veterans Hub has probably been running about 3 months now. We've set up a Veterans Hub in the park, in Ynys Angharad Park, in Calantaf, which is every Friday, 12 till 2. Numbers between 10 and 12 at the moment. So it's still that's enough, but we need to grow it more. We need to do a few more activities, I think, which we've talked about, to make people come along. But if you want to advertise that, I know Councillor Parkin, you've got a lot of contacts through your group on the Thursday lunchtime, and it's about building that and developing it, really, and eventually moving it forward so the veterans themselves take over the group rather than Jamie being there every week. Mark's been helping as well. Great. I get there when I can. Councillor Webber goes along, but in the end, it will need to be run by veterans themselves. So I'm saying the only thing to mention which came to me was the Remembrance concert. I know it's a long way off, 1st of November. We've just started planning that now with John Asquith, who hosts the event. Started booking people in, and so that'll start rolling through soon. And we'll have meets with you, Councillor Webber, to discuss, how the planning of that's going.
And can you touch, Chris, on the Veterans Awards and our nominations and how we support the fact those nominations?
Veterans Award once a year, an event in the Vale Hotel. We've put forward a number of nominations this year. Councillor Webber will be attending. Gareth Pennell who most of you know, has been nominated. Phil Richards, RBL, has been nominated. I think the Mardi Surgery Veterans Group is one of them. Nigel Locke from Valley Veterans. And there might be one more actually. Can't remember.
There is one more, the Mountain Ash
Veterans Hub as well. So they've
meeting
all been
Darren
nominated by us. We've written up things, and on the evening, Councillor Parkin will know because I think you won an award. I don't know if it was last year, or the year before. So yeah, that's a big event we support. We've got a table there as well.
Well, what we try and do with our veterans groups, we support as much as we can, but we have to be mindful of the fact we encourage all newly formed veterans groups to sign up to a constitution, to have a chairperson, a treasurer, and a secretary. I mean, obviously, as an authority, we need to be extremely careful in terms of how groups are run, and perish the thought, but you know, we've got to sometimes take a bit of a back step in ones that we don't think are properly constituted or not properly run. You know, it's as an authority, we have a duty of care to do that. We will never ever not support any veterans from any groups. That is I see that as our duty to do that, and Jamie is passionate about what he does anyway. So Steve, I'll bring you in.
I think yes, Mike from Aberama has been nominated, hasn't he?
No, it's the Mountain Ash.
Oh no, I know there's somebody from.
Yeah, there's someone has been nominated from Cannon Valley by Travaris.
Yeah,
Not
that's it.
somebody
Yes,
else.
Mike.
not
Yes,
Trevor.
yeah. And regarding the Armed Force Day, I had all intentions of coming, but as you know, my sister is virtually dying, and I had to take an emergency down to Velindre. So I spent 2 days in Velindre, but I wanted to go to Ponty Park. You know what I mean? So I'm sorry about that. Okay.
Eve, I'm so sorry to you that I didn't realise she was
Oh,
that
she's
ill.
quite ill. My sister is. Yes, she
Oh,
was
I'm
stage
sorry.
4.
Oh,
Yep. So, and it's a birthday Tuesday anyway. So.
Craig, do you want to come in?
Yeah, just two things on Chris. The Armed Forces Day and obviously events being held in the park, honestly, in justification. I think I don't know if you can or get a feel for what impact that had on the town centre in generating income for the local town centre. I think that's a matrix that the reads need to be captured by the council holding these events in Pontypridd town centre. So that'd be really one if we've got that, you know, for example, I went out there and had a meal in a local restaurant and stayed there in the evening. So, you know, that type of impact, I think, needs to be captured if we possibly can. The other one then, Councillor Webb, was really around, you mentioned about veteran groups, you know, and I think it's very important that, you know, from a governance perspective, that, you know, the veteran groups are registered with the Charity Commission. And therefore, you know, that would automatically dictate that they have a constitution or terms of reference. And therefore, you know, we can govern that through, you know, our own policies within, you know, what we give to charities or what we do and what we support. So I think that's something that's important that we embed, that, you know, they are properly constituted and registered with the Charity Commission.
We have tried, Craig, but as I said, we can only advise, we can't compel, but you know, it's in their best interests. It's in their best interest, like with voluntary groups, you know, and you know this better than anyone, Dawn, you know, you're open to public scrutiny. And a lot of your funding comes from public funding. So you have to be prepared to have your books opened, have them audited, and be open and transparent. It's in their best interest to do that. So, Dawn, you've got your hand up?
Yeah, just one thing. Obviously the veterans group come under the Lighthouse Project, that is a charity, and we just provide the lunch and the space. So I wouldn't need to do a separate
No.
No, it just comes under our own charity. Is
You're
that
doing
right?
an amazing job, and I'm still disappointed that I haven't been able to take advantage of the lunch yet. I have been over there, as you know, but it's just that every time I say, and I mean the veterans sing your praises, you know, it doesn't go unrecognised, and I'm thankful for what you do.
Can I just ask one other question, please? Obviously we want to try and get more veterans in because a lot of them that come go from one to another, which is great. So they're having a lot of camaraderie throughout the week. Is there any chance of like Valley veterans get different speakers in and mental health? Is there any chance of that's being considered sometime in the future for things like that to happen as well, so we can advertise it to get more in for
Yeah.
that lunch and they might come back?
Chair,
You
should I jump in?
get Jamie to work with you
Yeah.
now, won't we, Chris? And
Yeah, I was going to say Jamie's got all the contacts.
Yeah.
Councillor, he can help you with anything you need there. We've got loads of people that would be happy to come along, especially as it'd be a lunch for them as well. I'm sure they'd come along.
Yeah,
Thank you.
there's an amazing doctor. His name escapes me. He goes up to Valley's Veterans.
Yeah.
He practices in Talbot Green, but
Dr. Thomas, I think.
he's a great supporter, Dawn, and I'm sure that, you know, people like him, he's entertaining, enthralling, and an amazing support to the armed forces community. So, Craig, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, no, just to come back to come to the parking really. You know, because what you know, and I'm speaking from you know, a member of the Royal British Legion. You know, we do already have the Royal British Legion who is there as a national, you know, support for the armed forces family, and they can join the Royal British Legion and, you know, be part of their thing. So what we also are encouraging is exactly what you're doing, is then other organisations that have hubs and have, you know, the community halls to do that breakfast morning, or to do that, you know, lunch and learn or whatever. But the whole idea is then you can map that out throughout Rhondda and Taf and say, look, a veteran go there, you know, Valley Veterans on a Thursday, you can go to wherever you are on a Wednesday, so they can engage every single day of the week if they want. And the whole principle is then if you identify an issue, now it could be housing, you know, and your veterans are talking, well then, you know, you should then get hold of Jamie, and indeed the Armed Forces Champion, and say, look, we're identifying this issue within our little area, and then we can get the housing officer in, or, you know, social services in, or whatever. And also, you know, the Royal British Legion and SAFA should be regularly engaging with your group to have that casework opportunity to support that veteran, and that's what we're trying to encourage through you know, the hubs. But Valley Veterans is becoming and Simley Pontypridd is a veteran hub, which is specifically aimed around supporting the armed forces family, whereas yours is a group of veterans coming together, and we wouldn't want them to be constituted. So any advice or anything you need on that, please do get in touch with myself if you need it.
Yeah, but Craig, it's not just when a problem arises. I mean, we can get people to go and talk to the group as well. That would be beneficial. Like, we can get somebody from the health board. You know that I've had several matters of discussion with the health board about their inability sometimes to engage. I mean, we get in there now, but it's been difficult in the past. But before a problem arises, I mean, if these groups go and talk to the veterans, and they are there to do that, and we should encourage them to where we can. So Jamie will pick up that with yourself, Dawn, okay? And yeah, sometimes, you know, not just them sitting down and having a meal, but having that information and that contact, and before a problem arises. So yeah, we look at that. There are no other further items on the agenda. Does anybody got anything else they want to raise before I formally close the meeting? No, so I know it's a long time since we've come together, but I'm always around if anybody has any questions, queries, wants to give any level of input. I'm more than happy to listen to that. We won't leave it so long next time, I can assure you of that. And I look forward to working with you until obviously next May. So thank you for your attendance this morning, and I now formally declare the meeting closed. Thank you.
Chair. Thank you all.
Thanks all.
Thanks all.